There's the master practitioner one on the far right, and that's the one that's coming up, which will really incorporate all of the different aspects to what BIM is, what information management is, what ISO 19650 is, and how to follow all of these things. So we're pretty excited about this, the Master Practitioner course. I see people are joining us, and we will get started in just a second, but we just wanted to share some of the new free training content that is available on the Planoly site. If you go to planoly.com and then /training or click the free courses button, you can get access directly there. Cool. Okay, so today we have a special guest, Adam. He's been working as a partner of Planoly's for a long time. We've been really interested to see the projects that he's been working on and the companies that he's working with. But one of the really key things that I think is slightly different with what Adam is able to do is, and that's in the title, is make BIM stick. So it's not just that BIM is quite a cool thing to implement. It's not just something that people will implement in a sort of a project by project way, but it's actually something that is so fundamentally beneficial and valuable for the teams that he's working with that he is able to do something that not everyone is able to do. So hopefully we're able to have Adam share how he is exactly doing that, and also have you ask questions in the Q&A. And both Akash and I will also collect your questions, and I'm sure we'll have our own questions to try to get the bottom, or to get to the bottom of this, and to find out all of the secrets that we can share with the rest of the world so that others can get this same success. So I'm going to let Adam take it away and share all of the secrets to helping teams to get BIM as an implementation and it to stick with these teams so that they get the value that they deserve. Adam, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for the opportunity and welcome you all from Budapest. So I am Adam Kovacs and I am basically an architect. And I have been grown up on Stargate and Star Trek. And I thought that after getting my architect diploma, I would build cities and buildings with space technology. And after that, well, I realized that in the real world, well, we are not building buildings with space technology. We rather use emails, Excels, and papers. So I figured I have to change something. So I started my PhD at the Technical University, and I started to research what are the obstacles or how can we digitize this industry, which is really lagging behind. And after that, 7 years ago, I co-founded Brick Data, and our goal is to digitize the building industry. And in the last couple of years, we are working with several companies, which I am going to show you as an example or tell you a couple of stories about these implementations. I'm not really a definition prioritizing person. So a lot of times they ask me what BIM is, and I usually say that the best interest of mine. And of course, it's somehow funny, but the message is more important, I think, because, well, as in the title, making BIM stick, well, we need to motivate people. We need to motivate the leaders of this industry. We need to motivate the people working in this industry. And if they got the message that this whole ecosystem, this digital ecosystem is for them, it's so they can save time, they can focus on the real task, the creative task that they want, and they will have less administrative monotonic work, then that's the whole point. And everything comes afterwards, if it's a model, a methodology, or what kind of softwares they use. So that is a really main message what I wanted to tell you. So of course, well, digitization and BIM really sounds very nice, but what do we actually do? So 25% of our time, we spend our efforts on BIM consultant services. So, and it has two parts. So the first is a scan to BIM, where we actually go and laser scan buildings, make point clouds, and after that we even can make ArchiCAD or Revit models out of it. And in the last years we have some really cool buildings as well, some logistic buildings, some industrial kind of buildings, some homes. So we have really good experience how BIM works in the practice. So we are not just talking about it, but we wanted to really experience how it really goes. And so here's a little short video how this can look like. That here we laser scanned the whole site and the whole building. Based on that, we created a BIM model in ArchiCAD, for example, and with this visualization, we just shared these two visualization in one video. So it is really much more understandable how was the situation at the moment when we recorded it, and then how it turned to be a BIM model, what we could use, for example, for visualization purposes, but of course, we used it for other different purposes as well. For example, clash detection, quantity takeoff, and other data visualization in order to decide what to do with the buildings and what we should change during the construction. So this is one part, the scan to BIM part, but the other one, what we do in this 25% is the BIM management. So there are a lot of projects where we just help in the management process, the information management process. Just to highlight one or two, when a BIM project starts, usually we have contracts, and we experience that from a lot of companies that they don't know how to create a contract that suits in the BIM environment as well. Because before it was easy that they received the papers and then they had the plans, they gave it to the contractors, they built the buildings. But nowadays it is a lot more sophisticated, not to mention the detail level, the load levels, or other BIM requirements. So one is the contract advisor, which is really a valuable service. The other is the common data environment operations. A lot of times we experience that these client of ours actually paying for a CDE platform but doesn't know how to really use them. And in order to help them, we first support them, we operate this platform, and during this process we even sometimes teach them. So after a while they can do it on their own. Or sometimes we even give our BIM managers for 1 or 2 or 3 days a week in order to help them in these BIM projects. But all of these services focus is the information management and the quality control of our projects. So this is the two main topics during these. And there is another video of this that this is a project of ours, a really complex. It was a 30,000 square meter project where we managed the requirements and the clients and all the stakeholders. And it was actually quite a successful project of ours. And I would like to highlight that during these services as the BIM consultant, it is really good that we have a great tool, which is Plannerly. Because during the information management and the quality control in the pre-Plannerly times, we used a lot of Excels and Word documents, and it was really hard to just follow that who needs what and what is the latest requirement that the designers need to do their work according to. So it is really a great tool. But of course, sometimes it's obvious because Plannerly in their homepage it says this software is meant for that. But I would like to highlight that it really helps in articulating the client needs, is really a great help. So for example, when we have a scan to BIM project, it's really hard to understand what is actually the client want and what kind of services they want, what kind of model uses they want. And we need to decode and make it more understandable and explain it in a way that they would understand. And all these tools helps a lot during our work. So I wanted to highlight this because it really is a really good cooperation. So this is the 25% of our efforts that we spend on, but we have 75% of making digital organization development. So the theory behind it, that we get experiences from real projects, and then we would like to pump this experience to other organizations and make them better. And so this way they can avoid some kind of failures that we maybe even went into. But what is a digital organization development? Because so far, usually people and companies are just talking about implementing BIM. Well, we can actually look at this as a prism. The prism actually divides the light into colors, and these colors in the BIM, what we researched is that it's IT infrastructure, people management, process management, and business development. So these are the four basements that a company in the AC industry need to focus on, because if they don't, then they will have some failures, or the whole implementation won't be so easy or fluent. And it is not enough to just understand the importance of these four basements, but we need to understand that these should be understood in two different levels, in an organization level and in a personal level as well. Because in our experience, we had met with a lot of companies who have really good and great books of codexes, and they have a lot of rules. So on the organization level, everything looks fine. But when we go to the personal level, then suddenly we realize that people actually doesn't know that there is a rule that they should follow. Sometimes they have a really good hardware or software, but they don't know how to use them. And even if they have a really good hardware, they know how to use them. They have a common rule how to use among the company together in a good way. Then they don't build this service in the business development part. So they don't have contracts for it. They don't make new services. They just have their previous services and they just update them or make it more efficient, but they don't rethink the business cases, whereas they could actually, and a lot of times it is really beneficial. So let's go a little bit further, and these are the steps of this digital organization development. The first is a digital assessment of the company. The second is a BIM attitude workshop. The third is a digital strategy workshop. And then comes the implementation part with the supporting phase. So this is the way how a company can be digitally mature and BIM capable. So let's take a look at the first step, which is, I think, really crucial, because we have a holistic company assessment where we gather data. We have got some inputs from the company. We would like to know how it works. And we have tests, for example, ArchiCAD tests, Revit tests, Excel tests. Oh, Excel is so important because a lot of times if some miscalculation go in a bad way, then the whole budget can go off. So that's why we need to make sure that everyone can handle it right. Another one, interviews. We make interviews with certain people in certain topics, even focus group interviews. For example, one topic could be the nomenclature of folders and file structure, or an ArchiCAD template, or how they use Plannerly, or other kind of topics as well. We can have questionnaires. These are the traditional way of getting these informations, but we can have a system analysis as well. They send us the project files. We take a look in it. We sit and take a look at their email post box in the client, in the Outlook, how they use the email structure. And sometimes this last two is the shadowing and design ethnography, that we go and sit next to them for a couple of hours or sometimes for a couple of days. And we go, for example, on a construction site, take a look how they work, how they send informations, if they use Viber, WhatsApp, or they use the official Teams channel. So we really get into this and know, according to this, how a company works, how that certain company works. And as a result, we will know that what is the potential of development in the certain areas. And this whole organization development process is in the goal that we need to increase all of these to the same level, and after that develop all of them in the same time, because this is really an error sensitive sector, the AEC industry. And like in football, in every goal, usually all of the teammates are having a part and passing the ball. But if they don't succeed with the pass, there won't be a goal. So that's why the weakest part we need to improve. So it is really important during this process. And another result will be a digital competence codex. And let me just show you in real time one of these. So everyone will have a profile on their own, and everyone will have a BIM point, and we will be able to give them trainings exactly for their needs, because we will know what kind of competence they have and what they need to have, and we can teach them. So with these data visualization tools, we can have this data-driven way to plan all this organization process. So we really get into it. For example, here are the development proposals where people can tell us what they think we should improve, for example, in the process. So this is one part of it. After that, in the questions, if you are interested, I can show you a little bit more details, this part, but we will have these results. After this, we have a BIM attitude workshop. It is actually a digital showcase day for the company where we teach them the BIM attitude, actually, the innovative technologies we share. We want to motivate the whole company that this will be really a good thing and they should be part of it. And after this, we will have a digital strategy workshop where with the stakeholders, with the design thinking methodology, we decide in the next half year, 1.5 year, what kind of modules we would like to improve. And then comes the implementation part, where the goal of implementation modules are to mindfully change the digital tools, methods, and attitude and habits, which can be actually an ArchiCAD template creation, manager training, a Power BI dashboard introduction, or a Plannerly implementation. So that's what this whole methodology is about. And that's what I think and we think that can make BIM stick in real estate developers, design studios, discipline designers, or even contractors. So that's our thought on this topic.
I love it. Absolutely love it. So I can see that so much time is spent in the investigation, like the analysis of what the companies that you work with do today. And I love that. I think that the problem in our industry is that so many people kind of miss that entirely and try to almost guess at what would be the solution and sort of implement things ad hoc and try to make them stick. Is that what you've seen before, or what brought you to such a structured workflow? What were the experiences before that you kind of felt that you needed to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a really good question. Well, first I started with trainings, actually. I started with ArchiCAD trainings, and during the trainings, I realized that sometimes the problem is not that they don't know where to click in ArchiCAD, but they don't know where to find the folder structure, or how can they download it or share files with other stakeholders of the project. And then I thought, okay, then we should teach some basic IT skills as well. And then after that, we realized that sometimes they have problems with deadlines, or doesn't know how to manage the project as a project management methodology. So we started to tackle this project management part. And then after that, we said, okay, then let's go really far, get a holistic method, get everything clear, because sometimes a company just reaches us that, oh, please let's have a training. And I ask, okay, but you spend that much money on a training, but how do you know that that is the most successful and efficient way to spend your money on? And they say, well, because I don't know, Joe said that we need that training. And then we get talking.
So you started by trying to understand the training side of things. And I think that in your analysis, you even had what the gaps are. So to investigate what the gaps are for people's Excel use. And
Yeah.
that really is an all-encompassing, because Excel, we can't ever get away from. It's just such an amazing tool. So when you look back in the early days of Brick Data, when you didn't have some of these other tools and you were trying to use maybe sometimes Excel to do some of the things that you're doing today, how do you decide for an organization based on their skill level and based on what tools they use today, what they should probably be transitioning to? How do you decide whether, they're Excel wizards, so therefore we should just have them use Excel for everything, versus move to a structured database to implement master information delivery planning or something like that? How do you decide how much to bite off and how much to help them progress?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there are different levels of digital maturity. One is when they use basic document file tools, for example, Word or Excel. And the next level is to use database softwares. And so database softwares, when you have one data in one place and you link it to other parts, always a good answer. And the Excel gurus and magicians understand it as well, because a lot of times it is really hard to avoid errors or mistakes in an Excel file, because several people uses it. Unfortunately, they somehow misclick or they erase one cell or a symbol, and there are several Excel files. It's really hard to handle it after linking these Excels from one another, and usually they really understand. So the next level from being an Excel guru is to be a Plannerly guru, a Notion guru, a Trello guru, or a database software guru, I think.
Yeah, very cool. So you have these stages as you go through. How you mentioned that I saw this love for change, or this love for support, and this love for doing it in the right way. I, could clearly see a passion there. And I love that you mentioned at the start with BIM, you try to explain as the best interests of mine. And it's truly everyone that you're helping to try to see what BIM can do for them. What are the best interests of them? How did you come up with that? When did that like trigger in your mind, and what was it that you were going through that prompted you to kind of categorize what BIM should be in that way?
Well, yeah, I'm in a special position. I could say a superposition between academia, because I'm doing my PhD, and then I am the founder of Brick Data, the practical, the company. And so I think that I can understand both sides, when one wants to define this whole thing, but the other side that I don't care of the definition, just do it. And so I met a lot of people who said that, oh, these clients are so stupid, they don't understand BIM, and that why are it's so good for them. And I wanted to approach these people that they are not stupid, because they have their own reasons for this whole thing. And I somehow started to show them my thinking, but not that okay, yours is bad and mine is good, but just to show the spice of this, or what I liked about this, or what is my motivation. And of course, I am supporting it with numbers that, yeah, it's for your money, for your time, but the motivation and philosophical part, or the sensitive part, is really important, I think, as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's the most important part in order to get the value from implementing any change. You mentioned there, though, the numbers. What sort of numbers are you seeing when you're implementing these change management processes? How do you categorize whether it's return on investment or whether it's time savings as percentages? Based on that type of implementation, where you go from understanding what your clients do today to moving them to this stage of digital maturity, what are you seeing as the improvements?
Yes, so actually it is based on each organization development project. So it's based on the company, what is important for them. So we usually always make the KPIs according to that. Sometimes it's, for example, knowledge. And for example, the first test they made, it was 50%, and they want to improve it to 100% or to 90%. Or the goal is to let's model in a team, for example, in ArchiCAD or Revit, and then until we reach the phase that they confidently use these tools in the teams, then we take a look at the project and we say, okay, we reached that goal. But sometimes it's in the administrative way that we measure how much time they spend on, for example, measuring the PDFs with digital measurement tools. And then we make a pilot test that, okay, with this software, it automatically detects the curves, and then you have it in Excel in, I don't know, X minutes. And so we can compare it. So we usually use all kinds of metrics, or we try to use all kinds of metrics.
Very cool. Yeah, so lots of different ways of measuring it. Akash, I think there's questions in the chat. I'll come to you to maybe ask some of those. I realize that there's some others that are coming up here as well. You mentioned that you said companies can avoid the same failures that you'd experienced, and maybe there's some moments that sort of shaped how you now approach digital transformation. Can you bring up any of those challenges that you experienced that you personally had felt the need for some of these changes?
Yes, well, two popped into my mind. One is really a BIM thing, is that we had a project where they said in 2 months we need to model a building in Revit. And in Hungary, most of people use ArchiCAD. But we said that, okay, why do you want it in Revit? Oh, they said that we want to operate the building, have some quantities. And we said, okay, well, we can have a team who is good in ArchiCAD and we convert it to Revit and it will suit your needs, what you just said. And after that, after the 2 months, we made the project, and it turned out that it is not good enough for them because they wanted a parametric geometry, what is not working in this case. And so it was so bad that we tried to make it really concrete that, okay, is this good? And then at the end, it still went wrong. So sometimes you cannot avoid these parts. But the second one it's a personal one. For example, using a Kanban board to have my tasks, and I am every time to time I make day planning in the early of the day, a week planning, a month planning, using Notion and this Kanban view. It's actually changed my life after that.
Love it. So being able to plan and making sure that is something that is followed is obviously important. It's really challenging to get people's buy-in. So going through all the analysis, I love the fact that I mentioned in the chat as well, these steps, those 5 steps that you go through, the focus I think seemed to be on the assessment stage, because obviously that is where things need to be evaluated before you actually starting to implement some change. Akash, are there questions in the chat that we should bring up? I saw one really nice comment from Daniel as well.
I saw one from Thomas as well, the last one. So I think it's really nicely adding to the topic that BIM, BIM is a complex thing and building a project is a complex thing, and BIM is a tool that can have personal benefits as well. And when you can align the personal benefits with the project benefits, that's a win. And so managing the personal benefits at the right time is one of the project benefits. That's what Thomas shared with us. And Daniel was sharing that your workshop, the BIM Attitude workshop, pushed him on his career forward. Please start now or put some more questions if you have. In the meantime, I had my own as well, so I have the mic to ask it. I was wondering, in your practice, is there a typical kind of pattern how companies are approaching you, which kind of companies you are working with, and is there a typical way, like top bottom? So someone on a C-level would decide to go with a certain kind of digitization and then that the company would have to follow, or is it the other way around, bottom up, and there is an influencer, a troublemaker in the company who would push the company forward and change it from the inside?
Yeah, well, our first project was always like that there was a troublemaker in companies who we somehow get in contact with, and then they brought us to the company. After we got a couple of years of experience, then the other way around, then the company started to ask us, because in Hungary, BIM regulation started to arise and they felt an outer motivation, let's put it that way, or a force to satisfy themselves. So both can work, but usually we need actually really the high level and the engineers and the other side both want this situation. For example, there was one company who was a little architect office, 8 people, and they said, okay, let's go with the assessment. And we went with the assessment, we went with the BIM attitude workshop, and after that, he said that, okay, I understand that we need to develop, but I am as a leader, I am not ready for this. And if I am not ready for this, then let's not do this. And so we stopped there. And funny thing, after 3 years, they came back and we made the development part and the implementations. So sometimes they just need some time. But regarding the other questions, now we are working with design studios from 5 to 30, 40 people. Now we have contractors. In the last 2 years, we had 100 to 200 people, contractors, and we made assessment to 100, 200 people. So that was quite a challenge. We need to rethink the method to scale it up. And nowadays we have real estate developers as well. Actually, that's the best part. That was our best projects because there we supported and make it development as a real estate. Then we went to the project design studio, and then we could work with the contractor in one project. And that was really a big success.
That's beautiful. So you built this ecosystem around it. And that was actually leading to my other question as well. I saw in your 25% occupancy BIM consultancy that you are doing BIM contract advisory. That must be a challenge. So what is the trick to make BIM contractual?
Yes, so we always take a look at where do we start from. If there's just one word that, okay, this project is BIM in the contract, or they have some tables. And usually nowadays they have some tables. And so it depends on how mature are the partners of the design studio, for example. Sometimes the BIM part is just really an addition that they are making this project anyway with a certain designer offices, and they just have a contract and put the most important parts, which usually is the LOD levels of a scope, and then what do they want to use the model for. But otherwise, not much. So regarding file formats and other kind of details are not really. And sometimes we use, well, if we can, then we use Plannerly, for example, in this case, because it really helps them understand that what that LOD 300 means and why is it important for a real estate developer, because he's actually not really care about if it's 300 or 400. He just wants to have the design coordination so that the client comes, wants the new flat, and okay, put this wall immediately 5 centimeters over, and not redrawing in the paper, scanning it, sending it to the architect office. So the real estate developer wants value, and LOD 300 is not a value for him, but making this design coordination, sales coordination process better, or it's a value for him. And this is what we need to somehow articulate in the contract as well, so the design studio understands as well that how he need to adapt for this new thing.
Meaning you are bridging the terminology and the expert level with the higher level expectations and with the business level as well.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a good thing that you mentioned the business level, because that's why it's here, this business level force, because a lot of times companies are forgetting this, but it's really essential because companies are eating money and working based on money. So they need to be profitable.
You mentioned, Adam, that it's usually the digital troublemakers that come to seek the assistance to implement, but it takes that leadership buy-in. And you mentioned the 3 years for that leader, the executive, to come back to you and say, now I'm ready. What do you do to accelerate that? And how does it feel to you personally when you that leadership buy-in? What are the moments or what are the things that you do or you see that sort of tips them over the edge and says, okay, now I'm ready?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a tough question because this needs to be about just feeling it, what is really important or valuable for the leader. And it's really hard to say a rule for this, but you need to, I know, feel it, empathize with him. And, architects are especially a different animal in thinking. And, yeah, you need to talk with them. And then after that, somehow you can feel that, okay, probably that having conflicts with colleagues, it's a really bad thing for him. So if we can improve it, then that would be a good sign for him, or a deal breaker, for example.
For the guy that took 3 years, what was it that it was just time? What was it that meant that suddenly they were ready?
Yeah, well, in that case, actually, it was an outsider effect, that they have lots of projects for the government, and the government made BIM rules, and they wanted to be ready for it. So in that case, it was not my personal success, but the outer circumstances went in a good way.
Got it. Okay. I see
a question. Oh,
yeah.
you see a
Chris, go for it. You go for it.
I see one from Christy and asking about KPI. So, is there any data on how much more efficient work has become in architectural offices since the development? Quite difficult to measure. There are different projects on the go and stuff like that. So, any ideas around that? And Thomas gave some answers, not necessarily focusing on architectural offices, but some good results when it comes to implementing BIM on site. But Christy was asking about, especially about architectural practices.
Well, it really differs in a lot of cases, but usually it was 20 to 40% what improvement we measured. And for example, how can we measure something? So for example, during the tests, for example, in ArchiCAD or Revit tests, we have even a time measurement part when we set the time and measure that in what time can they make a model, for example. And in this case, we can measure the improvement regarding time. And we always, in the other situation, we always go that, okay, how do they make the price? So what were the factors regarding the price? And if these factors, for example, the concept phase was, I don't know, 10% of the project, then in the next project, when we made the development, we start to measure that, okay, we spent, I don't know, 5,000 hours of the colleagues on this project, and how much time do they spend on the concept phase or the next phase or the next phase. So usually we adapt a new time measurement tool, and the colleagues are always measuring the time, how much they spend on projects and in certain parts of the project. And then we can make comparisons according to that.
I assume this is complex, so it's not only about necessarily the individual skills of using the tools, but does it go across communication and coordination between teams, or how should we imagine this overall result?
Can you sophisticate your question a little more?
Yeah, I mean, measuring time, I'm assuming it's not just going down into the individual level, saying that now going through a training, I can click faster and build my own model or design my own part faster. But is there a component of communication, collaboration with the internal, external teams and things like that?
Oh, yes, of course. So, for example, a lot of companies, we implement, for example, Clockify. It's a software that they can measure what they spend their time on. And it can be project, it can be type of work or tasks. And there is usually that one tag, which is the concept phase. And there is one tag, which is the communication. And so out of, for example, 8 hours a day, we can aggregate the team's data and we can see that how much time they spent on what. And according to that, we can have some decisions or planning according to
like cutting out unnecessary administration burden and things like that, I assume.
Yeah, sometimes actually there is a saying, well, I forgot from whom, but that if you measure something, then it improves. You don't need to do anything, but if you measure something, it improves. And if you even focus on improving, then it even exponentially improves. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you. I hope it was giving some answers to Christy as well.
I think if we keep asking, we're going to keep unpicking more and more of the secrets, which I love, but I think we have to call it. I really appreciate, Adam, you sharing this. I see, such dedication in helping teams to improve. And even what you said at the start about the analysis that you go through and you find out that they're not even using most of the software that they already own and helping them to decide whether that's implementing more of what they have or whether it's bringing in new tools and getting executive buy-in and having BIM be something that people are actually having their own interests. Yeah, BIM is the best interests of mind is a really important part, because if everyone believes that they're getting value from implementing, then they are going to certainly be on the right side of the equation and make it a lot easier to get that value for the business. As we all know, that value is there. I love the fact you're helping teams to unpick it and to implement. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure that a lot of people have questions. If you have questions, you want to get in contact with Adam, his email address is at the top right, and we will look forward to hearing more about the projects that you're working on. We love supporting you. There's the website as well. Akos has pasted in the chat. Thank you so much, Adam. Any closing thoughts?
Just let BIM stick together, something like that.
I like that. Yeah, with punctuation, a comma after the stick. Yeah, let BIM stick together.
Yeah, and this is a happy ending, but not with an E, but with an A. Happy end.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Akos, thank you. Take care, everyone. Until the next time, we really appreciate it. Bye.
Thanks
Bye.
for the opportunity. Bye.